right, we are back with another episode of Off Trail with Luke and Chandler. I'm Luke.
I'm Chandler.
And this is Off Trail. We got a good episode today for everyone at home. We're going to talk about our Utah 5 national parks, the Mighty Five.
The Mighty Five.
As they are referred to. They're great national parks, except for one of them. And we're going to just give a little bit of a talk, a descriptor on each one, maybe a little bit what you can expect. Kind of just, at least show them a little love. It's Park Madness season. We want to make sure we are recognizing our national parks. And we thought we'd devote a whole episode to the ones we have here in Utah.
Yeah.
Since we're homers and we love them. So, but before we get into that, we want to make sure we take care of the show. If you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel. That is the best thing you can do for us. We greatly appreciate that. Also, make sure you like the video and leave a comment, especially if you have some stories or anything you'd like to share from Utah National Parks. Which one is your favorite? We might all differ in our little rankings of the Utah parks, but we'd like to hear from you guys as well. We also are on all major podcasting platforms. So if you are listening to us on one of those channels, be sure to find us there, follow us, and leave a 5-star review, because that's how we grow, and we'd appreciate that. We need it because we're struggling.
Yes, we are.
But so that's it. Today we are talking about our 5 Utah national parks, the Mighty Five. They are Zion, Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, Canyonlands, and Arches. Mm-hmm. All 5 are great national parks, except for one of them. And we'll get to that one at the very end. Yeah. Save the worst for last. But they're all very different, too. I think it's something a lot of people don't quite realize. I think the only 2 that are closest in similarity, maybe like Arches and Canyonlands. But
that's because they're right next to each other.
Yeah, they're right next to each other, and they share much of the same kind of geology.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they're all very unique, and it's really cool to have that in one state alone. So we want to just talk about that, and we're going to start. Maybe before we start, quickly, what is your favorite national park in Utah, Chandler?
So I've gone back and forth on this so many times. One day it's Zion, and the next it's Capitol Reef.
Ooh, okay.
I kind of go back and forth. I know what yours is now, and I'll let you talk about that. But there's also an argument to be made for that one, and I don't know. I think I kind of have to stick with Zion just because that's kind of where I grew up in that area, and it's been my favorite for a long time. I have a lot of memories there, and so I think just based on that, I think it's my favorite. But I don't know. I love Capitol Reef, and Canyonlands is really amazing too.
I mean, you cannot go wrong.
Yeah. Except
for one of them. You're going to hear that joke a lot tonight. But those are 2 great parks. For me, those are in the top 3.
Yeah.
BDOTES, what is your favorite park in Utah?
I think I like Bryce Canyon.
Okay.
The most. I think what I like about it is the kind of like the pine tree area. It's just it's kind of just flat until you get to the Bryce Canyon amphitheater itself.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
You don't expect it.
Right.
As Chandler continues to die over here.
I'm so sorry.
On the other side of the table.
But yeah, driving in, you're like, I don't think I'm in the right area. And then, you're there.
Boom.
Yep.
Yeah. Then you have all the hoodoos and all of the orange. And we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But it is a cool park. Go ahead.
I understand there's not as much to do there. And I think that's what you were going to say.
That is exactly. It's a park that is very small.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like Arches, there's just not quite as much to do, in my opinion, though I think even Arches probably has a little bit more.
Yeah. It's just got that uniqueness factor to it.
And it's very cool to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite park is now Canyonlands.
Mm-hmm.
I just blown away by it. I think it's awesome. Most people go to Canyonlands. They go to Islands in the Sky, which is amazing.
Yeah. That alone is enough to give it a running for best park in the state.
Absolutely. The views you get there, stunning. But I also recently, for those who don't know, and we'll get to this, Canyonlands has 3 different districts to it. And I got to go to one of the other ones, Needles. And when I got to see that, I'm like, yeah, this is number 1.
Yeah.
This is cool. Not many people go down there. And to finally get to see that for the first time is a cool thing. And to know there's also one more district that even fewer people go to.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's, to me, at this point, it's not even a competition.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
there's so much there.
Yeah. But, Zion's my number 2, I think, and Bryce is 4. But that's because I know, it's like a little Cap Reef better.
Yeah.
Still. But Let's jump right into Zion, Chandler's favorite. Chandler, I'll let you take us out. Tell us a little bit about Zion.
Well, if you watched our fun facts episode, Zion is home to one of the largest arches in the planet. Not in the planet, on the planet. Which is Kolob Arch, and I think it's like 280 feet wide. So that's a little fun fact
It's like
for you.
one sequoia.
It's like one sequoia long, yeah.
Well, General Sherman specifically.
One General Sherman, yeah. One General Sherman. If you don't follow the show, you'll know that that's how we rank.
We have lots of inside jokes.
Yeah, we measure items based on General Sherman's. Yeah, Zion is super, super freaking cool. Big, giant canyon walls and whatnot. There's so many cool hikes. Has Angel's Landing, which is one of the most like iconic hikes on the entire planet. There's so much to see, so much to do there. It's great. So
Yeah, and there's like a good variety, I feel like, within the park itself of kind of what you can do.
yeah.
Because, you mentioned Angel's Landing, which is a really cool hike.
Mm-hmm.
Not the greatest if you're afraid of heights.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. You guys have not done it?
Nope.
I've been up there, but I've never actually done the full.
You've done a
Hike.
Scout's Lookout,
Yeah.
which is like the start of the iconic Angel's Landing part.
Yeah.
You said you haven't?
No, we've done the West Rim Trail.
Yeah.
And we would have tagged that on, but the trail wiped out like 2 weeks before we went, so we ended up having to backtrack. But
Gotcha.
yep.
But yeah, Angel's Landing is really cool.
Yeah.
I did it before they permitted it. I think that was like 2 years ago. They started that maybe. But I did it the year right before. 'Cause I think Zion was the first national park I went to here in Utah when
Yeah.
I moved.
That makes sense.
But yeah, did Angel's Landing, super cool. Gets super like narrow and like it's neat to have to hold the chain like going up the rock as you climb. There's a spot or two you have to really like kind of lean back and help pull yourself up on the rock. It's super, super cool. And the view up there is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely one of those ones like if you're a little uncomfortable with that kind of thing, I might recommend not doing it.
Yeah.
Just because that's not a spot where you want to get stuck on
Yeah.
and have a little episode freak out.
Yeah.
Because it is a drop off on both sides.
Yeah. It big drop off, and there's people
Yeah.
who've died on it. So I mean
Yeah.
that happens. I'm not going to say regularly, but like, I mean, I don't know.
It's easy to see how it would happen.
Yeah, and it's common enough that you need to be worried about it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know what the statistics on it is, but I'm pretty sure like every other year I hear about somebody falling off.
And
of it.
and to be fair too, now that it's permitted, it's definitely not nearly as
Yeah.
insane as it was when I did it.
Yeah.
Because when I did it, it was like there was just a line of people coming from both sides on what is essentially a one-way trail.
Yeah.
At least how wide it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kids, there's elderly people that really should not be up there.
Yeah.
Just for safety purposes. And you have to kind of balance all of that. And it was tricky. But I think it's much better now that it's permitted. So probably not quite as dangerous, but you still want to make sure you're comfortable.
Yeah.
If you're going to try to pursue that hike. And it's
Yeah.
worth it if you can stomach it. It's
You can
awesome.
do it. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and you have to really know that you can handle it. I mean, I've seen videos. I'm thinking of one in particular. This girl on Instagram who she's this girl like traveling influencer kind of girl. She goes and does all these crazy hikes all the time, and she did Angel's Landing, and she was like, I don't know about this. She's halfway up, and she's like, this is way freakier than I thought it was going to be. So you have to really know if you can handle something like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, and if you don't feel good about it when you're on it, turn around.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Don't push it. Be
Yeah.
safe. Be smart.
Yeah.
But another iconic hike from there is Canyon Overlook.
Canada looks
And
great.
that's a beautiful view. Super easy hike too. Like everyone should do that one.
It's like a mile.
Yeah, like that should be like a for sure thing you go do.
Yeah.
Parking can be a little tricky, especially midday sunset because
Yeah.
it's just a busy place.
Mm-hmm.
But great view of Zion Canyon there, looking down little switchback roads.
Yeah.
Really neat to see.
Yeah. Cool photo spot too if you're
great-
going there for a photo.
Great photo
So-
spot. Yeah, highly recommend. Could be a little busy.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep that in mind. But Canyon Overlook is awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great spot. Getting a view of the Watchman, which is actually like a little peak that's, I think it's technically, well, it's probably inside the park, but it's like you enter the park and you look back essentially outside of the park
Yeah. Yeah.
to see it. And you take the little Paras trail along the river.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a cool little view. A nice, easy trail. It's not hard at all.
No, it's
flat.
it's a walkway. It's paved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But that's a nice little spot. Just a little stroll.
Yeah.
Turn around, see the the Watchman with the river.
Yeah, it's connected to like the main campground and the visitor center. So like you can park. A lot of people park in the visitor center. They'll go walk up and down that trail and whatnot. People rent bikes.
Great shot of Watchman at sunset with the river on it.
You can get down by the river and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of great things you can do there.
Yeah, it gets some great glow on the mountain there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last thing that we should at least mention with Zion is the Narrows, which is the other mega iconic trail in that national park. Unlike any other trail I've ever done, I've done it like 3 or 4 times. I enjoy it a lot. I like it. Some people I know not quite as much, but just like Angel's Landing, it's really cool. You have 2 really iconic and unique hikes in Zion, which is a really neat part about the park. So obviously Angel's Landing, you get like the heights and the steep cliff drop off, but with the Narrows, you're hiking through the river with steep canyon walls on both sides that is relatively tight.
Yeah.
You know, some areas it widens up a little bit, but others it's pretty narrow.
And hiking in water.
Yeah, and you're hiking just in the water. So my recommendations always go as early as you can because it just gets busy. But also bring good shoes that you're okay with getting wet. My Chaco's been great for that too, I will say, because you don't really care, you know, if your feet get wet at that point. Hiking poles, I think, are also a great tool. I did it the first time without them. Doable, but man, I will tell you, it is tricky because you can't see through the water well in a lot of places because it's moving and everything, and the rocks are slippery. So you might fall.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be one of those people. So bring some hiking poles of some sort. You can also rent waders and hiking poles and stuff in the park. Do that. But you basically just go back as far as you want, you know?
They go far back there.
It goes very far. And, you know, I haven't gone the whole way, but I believe the thinking is the farther back you go, the deeper it gets. And I know I have been at least as far back to a spot or 2 where it gets like shoulder. You know, you basically have to swim through the water at that point, which is neat. But if you're not prepared for that, like you can't just go do that.
Yeah.
Half time if we have cameras and stuff, like that's off limits.
I've seen videos of people like holding their bags over their heads, you know?
Yes. But it's a really neat place to go check out.
Yeah.
You know, I think the deepest I've been back is like, I don't know, 5-6 miles, something like that.
Yeah.
But it goes back even further than that.
It was way back there, yeah.
But again, you can go as far as you want. And not saying like you don't need to. God, everyone's dying on the show today.
I know. So
We're
sorry.
all coughing.
I'm good.
You
I was just clearing my throat.
Okay. Whatever you say. But you can go back as far as you want. It's pretty neat. And I don't want to say like it doesn't change much the further back you go, but there's kind of a point you should try to get to maybe. I think it's like the Wall Street area. That's kind of a good point you can come turn around. And I want to say that puts you like 4 miles round trip or something. I don't know. But worth, if you're in Zion, worth going to see because it's really cool.
One thing to keep in mind though, just be aware of the weather because you don't want to be way up there when it rains because
Yes.
Yeah.
Avoid that place during flash floods because you do not want to get stuck in that. Also, don't drink the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't drink that water. You can Google it. Just trust us.
Yeah.
But yeah, those few things in Zion are really cool if you can get all those into one trip, which I will say I've done. I mean, I've done Angel's Landing and the Narrows in one day. I've done the Narrows, Canyon Overlook, and Scout Lookout in one day. You can do pretty much all of it in one day if you hustle, but it's doable.
Yeah.
But if you take 2 days, even cooler, you know? So go check out Zion when you can. It's worth the trip. You're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's my favorite for a reason.
Yeah. I've always thought that of the 5 Utah parks, Zion is the most beautiful one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's just the most objectively beautiful park out of the 5.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Because they all have their own little unique features, but that's Zion's.
Yeah.
So worth going to see.
Yeah. Definitely do it.
Okay. We're going to move over to Bryce because that's the next closest park. It's literally like an hour away.
Yeah. We're kind of moving west-east here.
Yeah.
So,
but Bryce is very close, and this is BDOTES Park. So BDOTES, I'm going to let you take over here. Tell us about Bryce Canyon.
Well, first of all, you get a little sneak peek if you're coming from the Panguitch side through that little red canyon.
It's true.
Yeah.
That area is kind of cool. But yeah, you kind of just drive way up on this plateau for 10 miles or so. And yeah, you really do wonder if you're getting close to Bryce Canyon. Show up, big old amphitheater. It's a lot bigger in person than in the pictures. Like, pictures don't do it justice. No. I think my favorite hike is the little Queens Navajo Loop. You just kind of meander down beneath the hoodoos, go through a couple tunnels. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, not to correct you on your favorite national park, but there's the Queens Garden Trail and there's the Navajo Loop. Now, the great way to do it is to combine them.
Yeah.
Because they're two separate trails. Because Queens Garden is only a mile and a half. It's not far at all. And the whole Navajo Loop is like a mile and a half. That's really small too. But the Queens Garden's cool because you kind of get to walk up on some of the hoodoo ridges and stuff and then walk in between. There's a couple like small little tunnels on that trail, which is really cool. You go see the Queen's Garden, which has a rock that supposedly looks like the Queen of England, which I can tell you does not.
I think the Thor's hammer looks more like Thor's hammer than the...
100%.
That is very true. Yeah.
But Thor's hammer, like you just mentioned, is right off of Sunset Point.
Sunset Point.
I don't even think you have to leave the main paved area. You can still see it right there.
No, that's right. Yeah. So there's two main like parking areas, Sunrise Point and Sunset Point. Sunrise Point is where you go to start the Queen's Garden Trail. Sunset Point is where you get to if you want to do the Navajo Loop. And on one side of that, you have the Two Bridges side of the loop, which gets you right down to a viewpoint of Thor's hammer, which is probably in most of the photos you see of Bryce Canyon because it's the iconic little Thor's hammer looking rock that's on top of the hoodoo. But you can take that trail a little further. You go see like the cool winding switchbacks with the trees down there.
Wall Street.
And then on the other side has Wall Street, which has this switchbacks going down into the canyon as well. Super cool area to be in.
You can also, so you have Sunrise Point, Sunset Point, and then if you hike up another, I think 2 miles, it's, what is it called?
I know there's Rainbow Point and Bryce Point, but I always mix them up.
I think it starts with an I, though.
I think Rainbow Point's the one at the very end, at the very bottom.
That's the very,
Isn't there like a Fairyland loop? Is that what you're thinking of? That's like the northern end?
Yeah, that's on the northern end, though.
Yeah.
That might be the horse trail, too, because there's a horse loop.
I've done the horse loop.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And that was a really cool experience. Now, I thought my horse, Sheila, was going to kill me by just walking right off the edge, because I kid you not, these horses walk on the edge of the path, which is essentially a cliff. They don't bother to walk in the middle of it. They walk as close to the edge as they can.
Oh, geez.
And that was a little nerve-wracking. But the guy's like, yeah, they do it all the time. Yeah. They're good.
Sounds like she loved you.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
I got you.
but she was good to me. She got me back home safely, obviously.
That's good.
But the horseback tour was a pretty neat way to see the park, I will say.
I'm trying to remember what that point is, because there's a point you hike up and you get way up above like Sunset, Sunrise Point, and you get a huge panoramic view of the entire park. At least that mid
Inspiration Point.
Inspiration Point. That's what it is.
I feel like every park's got an inspiration point.
Yeah. I kept wanting to say Independence Point, but it's not. That's not it.
Yeah,
so,
Inspiration.
It's like at the bottom end of the main amphitheater.
Yeah, it's on the south end of the amphitheater. Super, super cool because you see everything.
Yeah.
So, and you can even see up above like the main tree line that everybody drives through. You know, you can see just miles. So, highly recommend seeing that too. And it is a steep hike. But it's like 1.5 miles to 2 miles up or south from Sunset Point. So sunrise, sunset, and then Inspiration.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I've done Inspiration Point.
It's cool. You should.
I can't recall. But another great hike to add to your itinerary if you're going to Bryce is the Peekaboo Loop. So go down, either take Queen's Garden down or take one of the Navajo Loop sites down to the bottom.
Navajo.
They meet down there. And you can jump over to the Peekaboo Loop, which takes you another, it's like, I don't know, maybe 3 miles round trip.
Mm-hmm.
Just another little loop around part of the park. And it's just another good way to add a few extra miles if you're feeling up to it that day.
Yeah.
See more of the park. You know, I've always said you can do Bryce for all intents and purposes in one morning. And get the gist of the whole park.
Yeah.
And that's one of the nice parts about Bryce is because it's so small, you can do it quickly.
Yeah.
You know, you need a little more time to do Zion or Canyonlands, but not Bryce. You can pretty much get the feel for the park if you just do Queen's Garden and Navajo Loop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you want to add more on, add more on.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite parts about Bryce is the geological aspect. Like if you go to the visitor center, you'll see this, but they have everything kind of mapped out of like the the Grand Staircase and stuff, and how Bryce Canyon is in a way related to like the Grand Canyon and Zion National Park and all these other places. I don't know. That's just super fascinating to me. I mean, when you go up into Inspiration Point or you drive further south into the park, you can kind of see that the land really does kind of work like a staircase. It goes further as it goes further south. And I think that's, as kind of like a geology nerd, I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
So
No, it is. The whole area of southern Utah, these 5 national parks, you get much that same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool to see the rock formations and how the land changes.
Yeah.
Over the whole area.
And how they're all kind of related to each other in one way or another.
Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, Bryce is a good park.
Yeah.
It's a good park, Again, very easy to go do. It's one of those ones I recommend to people if they're not huge hikers. It's a very accessible park.
Yeah.
To see it and feel good about what you've done. It's a good experience.
Yep.
So, okay, we are going to move on to Capitol Reef because that is next in line.
Mm-hmm.
Go a little further east and north from Bryce, and you will get up to Capitol Reef. And I know you probably like Capitol Reef the most out of all of us. So I will let you talk about that one.
Well, I think one thing that I love most about it is kind of the remoteness. Like Capitol Reef it's really out there. And there's a lot of stuff in Capitol Reef that reminds me of Zion. A lot of very similar rock structures and stuff, the cliffs.
Like some white-capped rocks.
Yeah, white-capped, like marble-looking, cliffs and stuff. So there's a lot of that I really like. There's a lot of really cool hikes. I unfortunately haven't done a lot of like the big hikes, what is it? The Great Throne or whatever it is. Or maybe that is Capitol Reef.
The name doesn't sound familiar, so I can't tell you.
No, that's not what it is.
Cassidy Arch.
There's that, but there's a Capitol Dome. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's a few places like that are super cool. And I unfortunately haven't done those. I've done a lot more of like the backcountry Capitol Reef stuff, like Cathedral Valley. I love Cathedral Valley.
Is amazing.
Yeah, Lower and Upper Cathedral Valley are just some of the coolest places I've ever seen in my life. So
yeah,
I think if Cathedral Valley was not part of Capitol Reef, I think my ranking of Capitol Reef would go much lower. That's just how much weight the Cathedral Valley area has on that park. It's so dang cool.
Yeah,
so,
no, I could see that for sure.
Yeah.
Cathedral Valley is easily the coolest part of the park.
Yeah.
And I haven't done nearly as much in Capitol Reef either as I have the other 4 parks. But one thing I've always liked about Capitol Reef, like the main little chunk of the park, is that unlike the other 4 parks, Capitol Reef, like the rocks, I've always just said they look gnarly.
Yeah.
Like it's a cool look. Like it's like, what happened here?
Yeah.
And that I think is like one of the neat parts about Capitol Reef because like Bryce has the hoodoos, which make it really unique. Arches obviously has arches, which make it really unique.
Mm-hmm.
But Capitol Reef, it's like, you almost look at it and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And like, that's just, it's its own little unique feature.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. Like, it's the most alien feeling of all the Utah parks. So, and you have all, Cathedral Valley up at the north end, then you go further south and you have all these slot canyons and stuff. And I mean, there's a bunch of different spots where there's like Native American ruins and stuff. And you have the, like rock drawings and stuff, down there, or cliff drawings. Yeah. Further south, there's a lot of off-roading, which we can talk about in a second because I've had an experience. But there's a lot to do in Capitol Reef. So
yeah, there's definitely more than like Bryce and Arches.
Yeah, definitely.
BDOTES, you got something?
I see Capitol Reef as like the quiet cousin to all the the other 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
The few times I've been there, like it's just not busy.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one morning, Bethany and I went in at like 7:30. And we made breakfast in that little picnic area, and we were the only ones there.
Yeah.
And there was a couple deer eating in the grass like 30 yards from us, and it was just very peaceful.
I think that's kind of why, like I mentioned, like the remoteness, because it's far out there. It's people are. I mean, obviously, people are much more drawn to Canyonlands and Arches because they have a little bit more name recognition. But there's also like the Moab area,
Right.
You know?
There's towns that are closer by those places.
And Capitol Reef is literally just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And it's definitely the most underrated
Yeah.
of the 5 parks.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, no one really goes and not as many people know about it. But when you do go, you're like, this is actually really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we actually, you and I had a conversation about this one time about how Capitol Reef kind of feels like, and you made me think about this with something you just said, but Capitol Reef feels like you took all of the other parks in Utah and combined them into one park.
Yes.
Because it has, elements of Zion, it has elements of Bryce, like some of those areas up in Cathedral Valley, they look like what Bryce used to be, or like what is going to form into Bryce Canyon. And then you have big arches and stuff, and you have things that look like they belong in Canyonlands, and it's just really cool. It's a cool mix of everything.
Yeah. It is like a little mishmash
Yeah.
of all the parks, which is cool.
That like main wall when you're driving in on the left, it's like a miniature scale Zion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a unique place, and it's worth seeing. Just like all the parks, except for Arches, they're all worth seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And you should spend some time, take a good weekend, go to Capitol Reef and see what there is. You'll want to go back.
Yeah.
Because there's more. And especially if you're trying to get up into Cathedral Valley, because that's harder to get to.
Yeah.
You need a good vehicle. You got to go at the right time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And you're definitely going further off grid where you got to be safe. And I know you've had an experience out there on that road, Chandler.
Yeah. Well, so we kind of talked about this with Zion a little bit, but Capitol Reef is one of these other parks. I think it's maybe not the only one, but it's one of the other parks in Utah where you really have to be conscious of the weather and flash floods, because flash floods, jeez,
We all struggle.
we're
from time
struggling
to time.
today. Wow, because Capitol Reef, like flash floods will come through there and just rip that park to shreds.
They'll just tear your car down the road. I mean,
Yeah, and I've seen more videos of pickup trucks being carried away in flash floods in Capitol Reef than anywhere else.
they're not Tacomas though.
Yeah, they're
just
not
to be clear.
Tacomas. Yeah, they're Fords and
Chevys,
obviously, yeah,
inferior trucks.
exactly. But yeah, they will just come through and they will rip full towns apart down there. I mean, there's several towns in that surrounding area that, they get shredded from flash floods every other year. And the road up to Capitol Reef, the road up to Cathedral Valley is like that. Like I swear every year it shuts down because they have to rebuild the road. But last spring, my wife, or then girlfriend at the time, we went down there on a trip, and we were taking one of these back 4x4 roads, and it was pretty clean. It was a little muddy at some spots, but like it was a pretty clean road. And we got, I don't know, probably like 15 miles in. We got
It's a good chunk of that road.
Yeah, we got deep into this road, and this was at the beginning of April. I think it was like April 2nd or something like that. It was the very, very first weekend of April. And we hit this spot in the road where this little thing of water had come through and ripped the road in half. And we tried to go up and around it, and then we ended up falling into it, and we got stuck for like 6 hours. And there was nobody on that trail. And I spent hours trying to dig the car out until, finally somebody came along and pulled us out. And then we had this whole thing where we had to get ourselves now out of this trail because it was way too snowy and muddy to finish the last 2 miles of the road. And we just kept, like, it went up on the side of this cliff. We kept driving, sliding, getting close to this cliff. And we finally just decided, like, we need to turn around. Even though we are literally a mile or two away from paved road, there's no way we're going to make it because this area is just way too intense. So we had to turn around and backtrack 15, 20 miles back to, the middle of the park. And that's just the thing about Capitol Reef is it's a brutal park. So you really have to be prepared when you're going there because you really are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, or you just got to be a better driver.
Yeah, or that too, yeah.
At least she still married you, so.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, Capitol Reef it's a cool place.
Yeah.
Again, going up to Cathedral Valley, be safe. Gotta be smart. But the rest of the park's easily accessible, so that you can do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cool stuff there. Again, unfortunately, we don't have the same experience there that we have in the others, so we can't speak to it quite as much.
Yeah.
But I know, at least for you and me, it still sits higher than at least 2 of the other national parks in Utah without having seen all of it.
Yeah. And that's what's nice is like there's all the stuff that we haven't seen is really just like at least for me, I haven't really seen like the hiking sections, like I haven't done any of the big hikes and stuff. And I want to. I've seen Like Taylor Dalton went and did a bunch of those hikes. It was actually like the day after we were there, the day after we got stuck, he went and did all the hikes in that area. I was like, man, we should have done some hiking because it's really freaking cool.
I have a couple mapped out at the southern end of Capitol Reef.
Yeah.
That I hopefully want to go.
Cool, yeah.
But yeah, that's Capitol Reef. Cool park. We are now going to move into my favorite park, which is Canyonlands. So
I thought it was Arches.
No, we're saving the worst for last. Canyonlands is my favorite park, and what I've always said about Canyonlands is it is like the most vast park.
Yeah.
In Utah, and by a mile.
Yeah.
Miles.
Or hundreds of miles.
Yes. And I think just one of the coolest things about Canyonlands, it's just like canyons and canyons and canyons and more canyons.
Yeah.
It's just like an endless layer.
Yeah.
Of canyons in the entire park, especially in Islands in the Sky.
Yeah.
But some of the biggest, coolest views you're going to find in the state, because you get up to a point where you can really see over everything else.
Yeah.
And it's just freaking cool.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard a name that fits a place better than Island in the Sky, because you really do. Like when you're up there, especially like if you ever go up there on like a cloudy or foggy kind of day and you look down, you can see down into the canyon. You really feel like you're on an island in the sky. It's the weird, like you're so high up. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a really cool view.
Yeah.
And a couple spots in there, you have the Schaefer Trail overlook, which if you have time and you have the right vehicle, is a really cool 4x4 trail.
Got to do it.
To drive. It's like the really iconic switchbacks down the cliffside.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. Took my dad and my brother on that. They loved it. You have Green River Overlook, which is a very popular one for photos as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely recommend going there for sunset. Stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Watch that light fill the canyon. Get the cool shots there. There's another cool one I did with my dad and my brother.
Called Mesa Arch.
No. Though we did do that, and that's really not much of a hike at all.
Yeah.
It's a stroll.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit of a walk. And you got to go see an arch. If you're there in the morning, there'll probably be a ton of photographers out there. Midday when we went, not so much.
Yeah.
So,
if you do want to go see Mesa Arch, like go see it.
Go see.
The view,
I hate it, but go see it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is it's like
a great view.
Yeah. It's not even necessarily like, because when you talk about like, I know it's not like the actual arch itself that you.
It's the photo I hate.
Yeah. It's the popularity and kind of the reputation that the location has. That's why that's why a lot of people don't like it. But like the view itself is really cool. Like it's cool to kind of see that arch, just because arches are cool in general. But like, one of my favorite things about that spot is like you go to Mesa Arch and then you walk along that ridge, you look down into the canyon, but then get to a point where you can look back to Mesa Arch and kind of see the full arch. Yeah, because then it's really cool. So
yeah, it's just a cool spot to go see.
Yeah,
and if you're going through, it's worth stopping.
Yeah,
just to check it out.
Yeah, but definitely go like don't go for sunrise, because there's always going to be 5 million photographers there, and they're all going to be grumpy and angry because they've been there since 3 a.m. to try to save their spot.
Yeah.
So,
but up in Islands in the Sky as well is Upheaval Dome, which
that's cool.
Yeah, if you haven't done that hike, I recommend that too. Easy hike to go see it, but it's just a really cool like rock, just like all of Utah, basically.
Yeah.
It's a neat geological feature that you don't see anywhere else, and it's worth going to see. So Upheaval Dome is another one. I feel like I'm forgetting something else up at Islands in the Sky. But
there's a bunch of different overlooks. You go to the very south end of Islands in the Sky. There's a bunch of little hikes and overlooks and stuff. There is what's it called? It's closed now, but there was some like Native American ruins you can go see.
Yeah, cliff dwelling.
Yeah, the cliff. You said cliff dwelling.
Yeah,
and
I'm like the only one who's like a little sick here, and you guys are the ones that's struggling the most. So
no, geez. I can't think of what the name is. We tried hiking there one time, but it was after they closed it down. They closed it due to some vandalism and stuff, so you can't really go there now. But so don't try. It's a really sketchy hike too, so don't try to do it. But there's a lot of cool stuff to see. Yeah.
A couple years ago, my grandpa and uncle, we rented a Jeep and we did the White Rim Trail. So it's go down the Schaefer Trail and then you basically go around the Island of the Sky.
Yeah.
It's like 80 miles. You're going 5 miles per hour the whole time. And you need a permit for the campsites, but where we were at, we were the only ones for 10 miles either direction.
So cool.
We were out there.
Yeah. No, I want to do that drive at some point. Now,
We need to do like a weekend.
yeah, that's the issue is like, I know you need like a whole weekend, basically.
You can bike it. We saw
No.
people biking it.
Did you?
No, won't do that.
Dude, my cousin, who's 16, mountain biked White Rim Trail.
But
He did it
usually,
like a year ago.
usually they have like a truck that brings all of your gear,
Right.
so you're not carrying anything.
Oh, he like bike packed it.
Well, I guess
Like
you can
him
do
and his
that
buddy.
too.
It's just a stud.
Yeah, and they did
Yeah.
it like 2 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a mountain biking beast. So
Yeah. But the reason I put Canyonlands above all the other parks in Utah is because there are actually 3 different districts to the park. And we've just talked about Islands in the Sky, but there's also the Needles district where I got to go to recently. And I can tell you that is just as cool.
Yeah.
As Islands in the Sky. It's different. It's not like Islands in the Sky where you're overlooking everything, but it's freaking cool.
Yeah.
And it's not nearly as populated. So you get more of the, out there feeling. And there's some great hiking out there. And there's also a ton of 4x4 trails that you can do with the vehicle. So there's a lot of cool things you can do there as well. Druid Arches, the trail that I did, which is a really awesome looking arch that's way back on a trail. That one's about 10 miles round trip. The Joint is also down there too. It's a cool little slot canyon. Highly recommend. But that's the second region in Canyonlands. And then the third district, which even fewer people go to because it's even more remote, is called the Maze. And that one, I have mapped it out. And I believe from like the main road that you enter the park, because you enter Needles and Islands in the Sky from like the Moab side on whatever that highway is that goes north-south. But this one, you actually have to come in from like the west side. So you're not even close to Moab when you enter the Maze.
You're like on that by Hanksville over
Yeah,
there.
you go in Hanksville, you go south down towards like the north side of Lake Powell down there. I can't remember like the town area that's there, the name of it, but
I know what it is. I just can't.
the Height Overlook, is that right? I don't know.
There's the Height Bridge, I think.
Yeah, it's like right near there, I believe,
Yeah.
is where you get off that highway and take the road that goes into the Maze.
Mm.
But I believe from that highway to like the nearest campsite or like the nearest like main attraction or something, it's like 4 hours.
Oh, geez.
And it's not like it's far away in miles.
Yeah.
You just have to go very slow.
Yeah.
And so you're in for a long journey.
Yeah.
If you're going into the Maze.
It's like 8 hours to get
to get there and back.
to a campsite.
Yeah, just to get to your campsite. So
Yeah.
you need to bring extra gas. You make sure you have food and water. Like you have to be fully prepared
Yeah.
in case anything happens, because it's also an area that could give you a flat tire
Mm-hmm.
really easily. You might scrape up your car. Like you have to know what you're doing and hopefully not be alone if you're going to go into there.
Oh, yeah. Don't be alone doing that. Yeah.
But I want to go.
I do too.
It's after seeing the Needles district, I'm like, we have to go to the Maze now because I want to see what this third mysterious section of Canyonlands looks like.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it existed, but I don't really know that I've heard much about it. I've looked at it on like Google Maps and stuff, but that's basically it.
I think I knew one person or like maybe 2 or 3 that have ever been to Needles before I went.
Yeah.
I don't think I know anyone that's been in the Maze.
Yeah. I don't think I do either. I'm kind of the same thing. Like I know people have been in the Needles, but not including you guys who just went, but
Yeah. I mean, it's high on my list now. I want to go see it.
Yeah.
But that's Canyonlands. It's a cool place. It's huge.
yeah.
It's probably easily the biggest park in Utah.
I'm curious how big Canyonlands is compared to other parks. Like
Death Valley is the largest one in the lower 48.
Yeah.
I don't know how Canyonlands stacks up to that because
That's
it
what
is
I'm curious.
massive.
That's what I'm curious. Is it the second biggest? You know?
Yeah.
Because I can't think of another one that's bigger, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
But that's Canyonlands. So let's move on to the last one, the worst one, which I don't really want to talk about. Doesn't deserve to be talked
we're
about,
gonna make you talk about it.
which is Arches. And I'm going to have to talk about because I've done everything there basically.
Yeah. Well,
But-
it's not hard to do everything there.
No, but this is Arches. And the one thing that I give to Arches is that if you want great photos of the Arches, it's easy.
Yeah.
Like they just set themselves up for great frames.
Yeah.
And
It's
You know?
easily the most photogenic
Oh,
in terms of like how easy it is to get photos and stuff.
Absolutely.
So
Now you got to battle crowds a little bit because
Yeah.
it is again easy to get to all these spots, but there's a lot of neat little things you can go see.
mhm.
You know, you get in the park, you get to that little what's it called? Not Wall Street area, but Park Ave.
Park, yeah.
You get to Park Ave, and it's just a neat little wash area, kind of walking through some rocks you can do. Not really a huge hike at all, but it's a cool little scenery you can walk through.
Mhm.
You get to Balanced Rock, that's next by, or well, Courthouse Towers is right there too, I guess. But you get over to Balanced Rock, which, as you can probably tell by the name, is a rock that looks like it's balancing up on another pedestal, and who knows how that happened.
It's pretty cool.
But it's a cool thing to go check out. Again, not much of a hike there. Next thing you get up to is the windows and Double Arch, which Double Arch has to be up there for one of the cooler things
Yeah.
in the park. It's a pretty neat
It's
spot.
really, really cool. Yeah.
And if you can get a wide angle lens and shoot that iconic shot of it, it's well worth it.
Mhm.
So that's a cool spot to go. And windows, same deal. Cool to see. Busy, just like Double Arch. Like it's because there's almost no hike. You only have to walk like 200 yards or something. Like
Yeah.
it's not much.
Yeah.
But there's going to be people there, and as long as you get no people in the frame, you got some cool shots available to you.
Is Gunsight Arch the one that looks like the little OK symbol, kind of right by the windows right there?
That's Turret Arch.
Turret Arch?
Turret, yes, yeah. Turret Arch is right there, and you're basically shooting that with windows.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's again cool looking stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Turret Arch in particular is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a cool area. But again, not much to really go do. There's no effort really required to go see these things.
Yeah. You can do this area of arches way faster than you can do Bryce. So
You know, and so that's cool. You drive back. I think Delicate Arch is next, and that's if you have time, if you can do a hike. It's like 3 miles round trip,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not
and it's like
much,
900 feet of gain.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a terrible hike.
Yeah.
And as long as you just follow the little trail markers, you'll get up there, no problem,
Mm-hmm.
and it's worth it. It's a cool view to be essentially on top of the mesa of arches
Mhm.
and seeing this arch that looks like it has no business being where it is.
It looks like it was placed by people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things with all the arches. You just have to wonder, like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Like, why here and not 100 feet this way? Like,
Yeah.
the whole park, you're like, well, why did it happen at this spot?
Yeah.
Why not over there?
I think that's kind of the draw to arches is just how it like weird it like it doesn't really make sense how arches happens, or like how arches was created. And I think that's kind of why people think it's really cool. I mean, that's part of why I think it's cool. You know, there's not like a ton to do in the park, and I think that's like why you don't really like it very much. Is
Why I resent it, yes.
yeah, it's just like it's really small, and there's just not a lot to do there. But like the different icons and features that are there are really, really cool.
It's more like a Ripley's Believe It or Not type place.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's a good
It's a
way
funny
to put
way
it.
to put it.
Yeah,
But yeah, Delicate Arch is worth doing.
Yeah.
Like, go do that hike if you're
it's iconic too.
if you are dead set on going to Moab, seeing arches, do Delicate.
Yeah.
Like, priority one.
Yeah.
Like, that has to be the one you do if you do anything.
Yeah, I am not one who's like, I don't really like using the term like this is iconic, whatever. But like Delicate Arch is,
It's on the freaking license plate.
it's on the license plate for the states. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
like it
when
is.
when you think of arches, that's the one you're thinking.
yeah,
of.
you've got to go see Delicate Arch.
Yeah, whatever
So,
image comes to your head, it's that one.
Just
Exactly.
don't go do it at noon on a July day. It's real hot
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
you'll melt.
exposed.
Yeah.
But worthwhile hike. Do
Yeah.
that one. A little up the road, we mentioned, I think in the previous podcast, Sand Dune Arch.
Mm-hmm.
Good little midday spot. You kind of get in some shade and get a cool photo of the arch. It's worth it. You know, if you're
Yeah.
into the photo stuff, it's nothing like crazy impressive, but it's worth a quick stop.
Yeah.
And you go all the way in the back, you get to Devil's Guard. Now, admittedly, that is the last thing I have to do in the park.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that one. It's about 8 mile loop back through the back of the park. There's a good chunk of arches back there to
Mhm.
go see. So whenever I go back down next, I'm doing that one.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited for, just to kind of finish out the park.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess that's not it, because there is the Fiery Furnace, which I got to do recently as well. That is a hike you need permits for. So you got to be on top of the game to secure permits for that if you want to go do it. And I can tell you right now, that is the best part of the park.
Yeah.
Easily the coolest part. It's kind of a thing you just go wander wherever you'd like. They have an official trail. It's like 2 miles, though you are going at your own pace. You're going slow. You're wandering around. It's easy to do. We spent like 3.5 hours in there, but it's worth seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I mean, it's almost like a little playground in a way, but
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
you get to all these little spots where it's like, oh, that's kind of a cool photo. This is cool. And like all these little canyons you kind of just walk to the end of. They're just dead ends and just, it's a neat spot. Now, you can't go in there when it's raining, snowing and stuff. Flash flooding is a problem. But if you go the right time of year, you get permits. I highly recommend doing that. You will have to be okay with a little bit of up and down, climbing, tight spaces. But if you can do all that, definitely recommend it.
Yeah, do it.
But go get the permits, do the little orientation video so you can be safe.
It was a video.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes long.
Oh.
But go do it if you can get permits for it. I highly recommend.
Yeah. Don't people get lost there sometimes?
So yeah, they
Is that why there's a video?
partially. They do have trail markers out there, little arrows, but they're easy to miss. So you do have to kind of pay attention where you've been, where you're trying to go. And I think as long as you are good about that and you have a little bit of experience navigating generally, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, if you do hiking and stuff, you'll make it.
Gotcha.
It's not like it's hard.
Yeah.
To get lost or to find your way back.
Yeah.
Because everything kind of just comes back to the trail anyway. But it's easy to do. And I had Google offline maps too.
Oh, nice.
So you can pull it up in spots and at least get a general idea of where you're at. So
that's a life hack, by the way. Google offline maps. Make sure that you get your offline maps because they're super great.
Yeah, no, highly recommend anything you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're going out into the outside, the outdoor world, get Google offline maps.
Yeah.
Download it.
Yeah. They don't take up very much space either. Like they're, I don't know. There's a lot of places that we go to where before we leave, I will download the offline maps for that area, and you can kind of make the map as big as you want and whatnot. But it's super important to have that in case, something happens and you find yourself lost. So
yeah, but that's pretty much everything in Arches. There's a couple other spots. The Whale Arch, which is fine, but it's not worth prioritizing.
Yeah.
And then there's Tower Arch as well, which you need a little bit of a vehicle to get out there unless you want to do a hike around. It's a cool area to go see, but and over the other things, it's not necessarily a top priority.
Yeah.
Like Fiery Furnace is the coolest thing, and then Delicate Arch is like the must do, and then everything after that to me is like same tier. So just figure out what you want to do.
Do you know how many arches are in Arches National Park?
Well, they say there's over 2,000
that's what I've
documented ones, and I think there's no way.
Maybe they're just counting little
Because
small
you can
ones
only
or
go
something.
see like 7 of them.
Yeah.
But there's more than 7 you can see. But they say it's over 2,000, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But I just wonder where they are. That's all.
Maybe they're in what's the place you have?
Are they in hibernation?
Or maybe that, yeah.
No, there is a handful back in Devil's Garden.
Gotcha.
So I will admit that. But for most of what the average tourist will do, you go see like 7.
Yeah.
Like, congrats.
And they're cool. They're cool arches, but
they're all right.
If you want to read about what Arches was like before it became paved, go read Desert Solitaire by Edward Abbey.
Oh, yeah.
That must be a good book, BDOTES.
It is.
Yeah, I wish someone would give that one to me.
Yeah, I really want to read it again, so please read it fast.
I don't know who hasn't.
Yeah.
It's not me.
I don't, I've never seen that laying around in an office somewhere.
It's definitely not on my bookshelf right now as we speak.
Yeah.
But
and it definitely hasn't been there for a while.
It's been there for like a year and a half.
Hey. People don't need to know that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
See, I remember that book showing up when we were in the old house.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't need to talk about this.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Arches. I mean, I kind of just ran with the whole thing. I don't know if there's anything else you guys feel like you need to add about it.
I mean, there's cool things to see there, but
it's just a bad place, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a horrible place.
for me, it's just the worst park in Utah.
Oh, it's definitely like the least. I don't know. On the cool tier, on the cool scale, it's the least cool.
Yeah, it's
It's cool to see once. Like,
That's
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
And I think one of the other issues, the grudges that I have with it is, as you're driving through it, like from attraction to attraction, it never really feels like you're in a national park.
Yeah,
It's just
no.
like underwhelming. You're like, this
Yeah.
is a national park.
Yeah, you'll go from like a really cool arch, and then it's just like nothing for miles, and then it's like, oh, there's another really cool arch.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't help that we go to all these really cool places.
Oh no, yeah,
So like our expectations are like even higher.
yeah, we have some big things to
Yeah.
compare it to.
Yeah, we're a little biased, but it just, I don't know. I just don't like it, you know?
Mhm.
I'm happy that if I do one more thing in there, I'll have done the entire park.
Yeah.
So I feel good about that. But yeah, it's just the worst one.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. So, all right. Well, that wraps up our Utah parks. All 5 of them, the Mighty 5.
Mighty 5.
They're great places to go.
Yeah.
We are blessed to have them all in one state. Not many states have, especially that many national parks.
Yeah.
California's got a bunch. Alaska has a bunch. I mean, basically the whole state of Alaska could be a national park.
Yeah.
Colorado's got 4 or 5. It's got a good chunk there.
I don't think it has.
Yeah, it's got Black Canyon. It's got Mesa Verde. It's got Rocky Mountains. It's got Great Sand Dunes.
I forgot about
Yeah.
Black Canyon. Yeah, I think it's got
I think
4.
that's everything. So it's got 4.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's any other state that has 5.
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
Maybe
Missouri
California.
has one.
Well,
It does have one. And if we want to talk about arches,
that's a technicality. I mean, basically any park with an arch in it, you just, especially in the name, you can't
trust it.
trust it.
Yeah.
Quick side note. Going back to, remember when you were wondering how big Canyonlands was to other parks?
Yes.
It ranks number 23.
What?
Yeah.
In the lower 48?
So that's all of them, including Alaska.
Okay, so that's going to be part of it.
Yeah.
So
But Alaska had
all
like,
those are bigger.
Alaska had the top 5,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
So it'd be 18.
That's like 5 of it's 7 or 8 or whatever it's got.
But even 18 surprises me.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I assume it's the biggest one in Utah, though.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But
That is a fun fact.
Yeah.
wow,
Wow, that's far down.
Yep.
Interesting.
what the heck is bigger than Canyonlands?
I'd like
Maybe
to know.
it's just because maybe it just feels bigger than it really
Yeah,
is.
we'll do another Google search at another time.
Yeah.
But we want to try to move into the last segment of our show here, which is adding another item to the back of the table.
And I believe you have an item for today.
I do have one today, and if you're at home watching or listening and would like to send us something to add to the table, please do. We will give you a little shout out on the show. But today, my item, I initially came into this trying to figure out how I could possibly tie this to this episode, the topic that we chose, and seemingly did not have a way to do so. But then you gave me a great idea. And if we want to talk about, things going awry, you ran into trouble when you went off road, recovery methods need to be employed. Something happened to me, I think now 3-4 years ago, before I moved to Utah, that, I had to recover from, if you will, and try to save a bunch of data. So I have my old hard drive
I was
that
wondering.
failed on me. This had a lot of photos on it that I'm not happy that I lost. But yeah, just a reminder, everyone, these things can go bad at any moment. So make sure you have great recovery options available to you. Just like Chandler when he's in Cathedral Valley. Now, he tried digging himself out. Didn't really work.
Nope.
But yeah, it's important you make sure you have your storage stuff figured out. I now have a backup system in place because I have a NAS drive that has 2 bays on it. So all my stuff is regularly backed up every day, which is a good feeling. I'm secure.
Yeah, I hope you do feel secure with that.
But yeah, so I saw this on my desk at home and I'm like, you know what? We're gonna use this.
I like it.
My old hard drive that
It's a
failed.
bold choice.
Yeah, honestly, my favorite photo that I've ever taken was on this.
One of your dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I lost it. I only have the 4x5 JPEG at whatever the Instagram aspect ratio and resolution is. It's all I have left of it, which is,
That's sad.
yeah, It's my favorite photo I've ever taken.
Yeah.
And
It's a
it's like
great
one of the
photo.
first ones I ever took too.
It's a great photo.
But it's just, great photo. But yeah, I thought it'd be a cool little thing to add here. I don't know how it's going to look back here. But I thought it would work for today. So that's all we got for today, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Off Trail with Luke and Chandler and BDOTES. BDOTES is included.
Yeah.
You got some great insight today.
Yeah,
did.
I wasn't expecting to have to give some Bryce Canyon insight, but
But you did.
we,
and you
we
killed
maintained.
It, dude.
Yeah.
Yep.
Killed it.
Yep.
You're a vital part of this system we have here.
It's been fun.
This
It's been real
organism.
fun.
With-
Without
Off
you,
trail.
we'd have to go hit a button. And it'd
Yeah.
We
be
would.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you.
Yeah. I may have you'll see what happened.
Oh,
when
I
you-
know what
when you-
happened. I was watching you over there while Chandler was talking.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's all we got for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We look forward to talking with everyone next time. See you next week.
Have a good one.
See ya.